Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to this webinar. It's the second part of the college admission webinar presented by our friend Diana Barbu, who's connecting from Florida, and our friend Adrian Ozarchievici from RomAmPro in New York and New Jersey. So, as you've seen in the poster, they're going to talk about these two sides of college admission that have to do with financial aid, and also Adrian is going to present other financial aspects of sending our children to college here. So welcome everyone. We are currently recording. Only the presentation is going to be recorded, and as I said before, please feel free to submit your questions here in chat, and also raise your hand when we switch to the Q&A section. So we're going to start with Diana, who is going to share her slides, and then Adrian is going to present. Yeah, please make sure you turn off your mics here. I would like to start with the slides. So Diana, you have the floor.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming for the second iteration of the college admissions saga, I guess. So today we are talking about college financial aid. So there is one tiny thing on my end that I cannot see myself, which is fine, but I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start the presentation, and then I'm also going to F5.
Finally, you've been talking on the phone for 7 hours. What?
Beginning. There you go. So today we're talking about college financial aid and everything that's related to finances for college. So let's just kind of take a tiny step back, 2 steps back, and talk about the process. So basically in the fall, we talked about how to find the college, how to apply, how to prepare the application, what kind of documentation is needed for the application, and all that. And we stopped there. So basically, everybody submitted the application for admission. And this is what happens next. So now is the time of decisions. Among decisions, with the decision come a couple of letters. So the first one is the acceptance letter. And oh, by the way, congratulations for completing the process, completing the college admission process in terms of application and financial aid forms and everything else. It's not for the faint of heart. So basically now you're probably going to get 2 letters. The first one is going to be the acceptance letter, or the letter that says, yes, we are excited to welcome your teen to the campus, and here's more details about us and our campus and all that. The college acceptance letter is the thing that comes first, and it's usually decoupled from the financial aid letter. Financial aid letter is the letter that comes in and says, here's how much money your teen or you can get for attending our college, and here's how much it's going to cost you for the first year to attend our college. It's important to note that you, and I'm just going to say you, because in essence, it's your son or daughter and your teenager, in essence. It's important to note that you don't have to commit to a college after the acceptance letter. So basically the letter comes in, says, congratulations, you're in, tarara. Wait for this letter. This letter is very, very important because this one has the money in it. And then the second step back that we're going to take, remember we talked about FAFSA and the CSS profile. So FAFSA, it's the federal form for asking for federal money from the federal government. So basically, the thing with FAFSA is that FAFSA provides access to federal funds, and in some cases to state funds, and in other cases also to institutional funds. Institutional funds are money from the institution's budget. And then the CSS profile, it's another application form used for financial aid purposes, but the CSS profile grants access only to institutional funds. what's important to know is that the Congress simplified the FAFSA this year. Because of the simplification, the window when the students could apply for the FAFSA got delayed. So basically, usually the window for submitting FAFSA applications used to open on October 1st. But this year, the window opened sometimes in December, just because of the new changes and everything. Because FAFSA opened later than usual, the financial aid letters are gonna come later than usual. Usually by this time, about January, February, and beginning of March, under normal circumstances, you would get a pretty good idea about how much each college should cost because the financial aid letters should come in, either through mail, either through email, either through the institutional portal for the student, one way or another, those financial aid letters would come. But this year, due to the delays, it's likely that the financial aid letters are going to start arriving only in the second part of March or later. So this is very important. If you don't see financial aid letters coming, don't panic, they will come, but it's just the delays at the federal level that's creating this, because the delays from the federal government basically cascade into the institutions. So now that we know that, and we know that there are delays this year in terms of FAFSA and FAFSA processing, let's talk about cost of attendance. So for anybody who wants to attend college, there's two big buckets of costs. There's direct costs, tuition, fees, room and board, and also indirect costs, books, supplies, transportation, and different other expenses. So it's nice to know that there are these costs. Let's see how to actually look at the costs and find them. So as you probably remember, even though the fall was a lifetime ago, we're going back to College Navigator. So one thing that I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna click out of the presentation and I'm gonna open my Google. And I don't think you can see my Google. So give me a second, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna share the full screen. Let's do Google. So share. Okay. So basically, one way to get to the cost of attendance and how much college would cost for a year. And my mouse decided not to work anymore. Oh man. Hey, yeah, let's see. Okay, good. It just got emotional. So basically, I usually Google College Navigator, and the first link that comes up, it's this. So one thing that I did, I looked up Stanford University and basically said show results. And basically, what we can see here, this is the federal repository of, I'm gonna try to make this smaller. This is the federal repository for all kinds of data for all the institutions across the nation. So basically, one of the ways we can find how much, if this decides to work, my mouse froze. One of the ways to find out how much college or Stanford, for the sake of the argument, costed in the past is by going to College Navigator and then looking at tuition and fees. Unfortunately, my whole thing froze. So I'm clicking here, but nothing happens. So give me a second. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna use my mouse pad. Alrighty, so tuition and fees. So we open the tuition and fees tab, and then you'll see how much Stanford, what was the price for a year of attending Stanford for the past 4 years. So you'll see that the price varied from about $76,000 to $87,000. And you'll see here the direct costs and the indirect costs. And if you think either one of them are trivial, none of these categories are trivial. So,
Iubi, să mănânci.
aș veni, da, sunt ocupată. So you'll see how the costs change over the past 2 years. So you'll see that Stanford had about a 7% increase in costs. Now, this is what we call, and you're probably gonna hear it on and off, this is the sticker price or the sticker shock. So basically, this is the asking price. This is what the institution says you should pay to attend. The next category of costs that we're gonna look at, other than tuition fees and estimated student expenses, is the net price. And net price is obviously the out-of-pocket, but this is an average net price. What I like about the net price is that it's available by income quintile. So you'll see that basically the average net price was about 18,000, and you'll see also that students that come from families with incomes less than 48,000 didn't have to pay anything to attend Stanford. So in the big picture of things, College Navigator is going to be your best friend in terms of figuring out how much college costs and what's the average net price. Again, averages are averages. So some students pay more, some students pay less, but this provides a good ballpark kind of estimate. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the presentation and share my screen again and see how this decides to work. Excuse me. There. Let's see. I am sorry about the technical difficulties. Not sure why Zoom is so finicky today from cut slide. There you go. So, the financial aid letter. The financial aid letter has several purposes. One of them is to tell you where the aid comes from, what types of aid are available, and the amount of aid that's available for a future student to attend a specific institution. So in the big picture of things, there are about 5 pieces to a good financial aid letter. A good financial aid letter kind of explains what gift aid the student is getting in terms of scholarships and grants. And just a parens, if you're unclear about the difference between scholarships and grants, scholarships tend to be more merit-based, right? So academic achievement-based, and grants tend to be more need-based. So basically, depending on socioeconomic status and family income and all that, the students may be eligible for grants. Okay, another type of aid, it's loans, and like there's federal loans, and those federal loans, students get eligible for the federal loans through FAFSA by filling out the FAFSA. And then there's also private lender loans, and those are the ones we all know for various financing processes. And then institutions have about, because not all of them, about 2 ways that students can earn money to pay for their studies. So one of them, it's Work and Study. Work and Study, it's a federal program that's also managed through the FAFSA process. That's why FAFSA is so important. But not all institutions are participating in Work Study. And Work Study tends to be also need-based aids, basically go with grants. And then campus employment is basically the institution way of saying, we have some jobs on campus, you just need to apply, and you're gonna work, I think, probably 15 hours a week, and we're gonna pay you this much, and you can use those money towards paying the tuition. So basically that's what earned aid is. And then we have the cost of attendance, which we talked about, and then the out-of-pocket cost or the net price. So things are simple until they're not. So what you see right now, it's 2 college financial aid letters from 2 colleges. So College A on the left, and these are 2 financial aid letters that one student received. So basically they applied to several colleges, and 2 of the colleges provided these 2 financial aid letters. Basically, on the left, you'll see that College A said, here's an estimated cost of attendance, here's an estimated cost, and then here's how much money we can provide in the form of aid, and then the net cost after all aid, it's 0. We're going to delve deeper into both of these financial aid letters, but this is just one of them. The second college said, here's our college financial aid letter, and here's our direct cost. Here's how much aid we're providing, and here's how much you have to pay out of pocket. And oh, by the way, you can also earn about $2,000 in work study. So what we're doing next, we are agreeing on a formula for net price. That's the first thing we're doing. And basically, net price, we are agreeing that net price is the total cost of attendance, so direct, indirect costs, books, tuition and fees, transportation, whatever else, housing, whatever, minus whatever grants and scholarships a student receives. So now that we have a definition and we know exactly what net price is, let's look at financial aid, the financial aid letter for College A. And I'm going to give you a sec to kind of look at it and tell me, and if you don't mind putting in, if you feel comfortable putting it in the chat, how much does College A really cost out of pocket net price? I'm actually not showing you the, there you go, from current slide. Unfortunately, I am unable to see the chat. There you go. 0, yeah, I would love to say yes. So, let's take a look at the financial aid letter for College A and really how much money are involved in paying for college for the first year. So we have the cost of attendance, we have a grant, great. We have a couple of scholarships, another grant, and then we have 3 loans. All 3 loans are accessible through FAFSA, and because of the student filing the FAFSA. But these 3 loans add up to $36,000 and something, which is to say the net cost of or the net price or the out-of-pocket cost for the student and their family for the first year of college is going to be $36,000 and something. So if we go to the second college, so now we have College B, which again has a different format for their letter because the format for the letters is not regulated. What we see here is that we have what looks like possibly a grant. We have another grant. We have 2 possible other grants or scholarships. We have a grant. We have a loan, unsubsidized. It's a loan, federal unsubsidized loan. Sometimes the financial aid letters are not necessarily gonna include the word loan in it. So basically we have $5,500 in loan. And then what the college does, they say, here's our cost of attendance only for tuition and fees and books. And we're taking all the aid out, so basically your cost is $12,000, except that to this $12,000, we need to add this $5,500. And then we don't really know how much the transportation is and the other expenses and everything else, which brings the cost of attendance, the net price for attending College B, at least $17,500, and then plus indirect costs. Now, you're probably thinking, well, indirect costs are not such a big chunk. The reality is that the vast majority of institutions that tend to be traditional universities, right? tend to require that students live on campus during the first year, at least during the first year, if not the first 2 years of their studies, which brings a room and board cost with them, food, transportation, everything else. So that's why it's important to actually know what elements a financial aid letter has and what it doesn't include so that you can plan for it accordingly. So in terms of standardization, so the federal government noted that the lack of financial aid standardization tends to be problematic because it's hard to read these financial aid letters. And what you're seeing, what I showed you in tables and everything else, tends to be more very well put together by me just to help kind of make the argument. The reality is that those financial aid letters are sometimes very glossy, very nice things that you need to pick different pieces from different parts. So the federal government said, let's standardize the financial aid letter and let's provide institutions with a template. And they did. And some institutions bought into the template and some institutions are using it, but some institutions are not using it. And the feds are not mandating the use of the college financing plan, which basically standardizes everything. So as I was working through my second book, I basically put together this standardized template where basically this provides everybody with an opportunity to say, what's the cost of attendance? What does the financial aid letter says? And how much do I actually need to pay? Because as we saw, in between $0 and $40,000 really or more. So basically, if you're interested in downloading it, it's free, scan this, and you're going to be able to get the Excel file. It's an Excel file with formulas behind it, and you just need to plug in the values as they kind of come through the financial aid letters, and then eventually you get to this. So in this area, you're going to be able to see how much the college costs out of pocket. And then you're going to be able to also see, the kind of loan aid that you would need to kind of think of to finance college. So these are the two books that are available on Amazon. If you'd like to get them, the QR codes are going to take you to the links. And then there's only a couple of things that I want to bring your attention to now. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen because I'm going to speak freely now. So one of the things. All right. So I want to bring your attention to a couple of things. So basically, the financial aid and the costs and everything else that you saw so far refer to 1 year of college. So this is the first year in college. As you're probably knowing, the second year of college, costs of college can shift from year to year. Usually they don't shift by much. But in periods of high inflation, colleges need to adjust their costs to survive. So what happens after the first year? So one of the things that could happen after the first year, if your teen basically it's eligible for a grant or for a scholarship, please pay attention to the specifics that come with grants and scholarships, because some grants have a requirement for the socioeconomic status, for the level of income to not go above a certain level. And the FAFSA needs to be resubmitted or refiled every year with with new financial information. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that especially merit aid, so scholarships, tend to have GPA requirements and attendance, full-time or part-time attendance requirements. So paying attention to the GPA requirements from the very beginning, it's very good, because these scholarships are not guaranteed. They renew from year to year and semester to semester under certain circumstances and under certain conditions. So it's important to pay attention to the requirements that go with scholarships and GPA and everything else. Yes, you can ask for more aid, but you'll need to do your homework for more aid. So basically, it's important to know the cost, and then also know how much you're willing to pay. And also know some GPA for the average GPA for the incoming class. And we talked about the looking at the average GPA for the incoming class through the common data set. Also the test scores, the average test scores for the incoming class, and basically how you, future student, relate to these things. And then also know what kind of amount of money would make you commit to the college. And also know very well this is the college that you want, and then make an argument specifically for why you really want to attend that college. My overall advice is that you go about this through email and documenting everything very clearly. So basically, when the admissions officers have to make an argument, they have something to go by, right? And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on is the college decision day. So prior to this year, the college decision day was May 1st. It's very likely that the college decision day is gonna change this year, specifically because of the delays in FAFSA and the delays in processing and the delays with financial aid letters and everything else. So pay close attention to the college decision days, because you don't want to not commit to an institution for a very long period of time, and then the institution is basically closing its decision period. So pay close attention to the institutions that you're really interested in terms of when is the deadline for committing. Because once a student is accepted, they need to commit. And the commitment means also paying a deposit. And like I said, under normal circumstances in the past, it was May 1st, but this year may change. And it may change and be different for each institution. So just pay attention to that. So this concludes my presentation at this point, and I think I'm gonna pass the baton to Adrian, and then I'm come back for questions.
Thank you, Diana. Before we pass to Adrian, I want to show you the books. The books we have here. Look at that.
Great minds think alike.
We have your books. Adrian has your books. You know, we didn't plan this. We didn't talk about this.
Okay.
So here at Românul Corp in Connecticut, I think we still have just a few of these volumes of these books that Diana wrote, and we distributed them in our community for a small donation. So you can find them obviously in print on Amazon. So this was the advertisement moment. Now let's go to Adrian to continue with him. Thank you very much, Diana. So those of you who have questions, please type them in here on chat or in the Q&A section. Please raise your hand.
Yes, definitely. Thank you both, Diana and Dragos. So definitely you could write the questions in the chat, and we're going to go to interactive Q&A right after the presentation, which is going to be less than 15 minutes. I'll try to go fast. And the only thing that I wanted to highlight is these books are really readable. So, you know, it's not going to take you a long time to read them, right? They're one of them is actually very short and to the point. So it took me about an afternoon to finish it. And I think they're very useful. And I also think that they are the perfect gift for somebody for their holiday, for their birthday. If they have kids in college or approaching college, I think the information is super valuable. Thank you, Diana, for dedicating your time pro bono to help our community with such an important topic. And certainly thank you, Dragos, for the logistics and the Zoom hosting and your help and contribution. So everyone, you can certainly show your appreciation for Diana's work by ordering her books and obviously sharing the information about her books. I'm sure it took her a long time to write them. So a little bit about RomAmPro. So RomAmPro is a non-for-profit. Our predecessor foundation was founded in the year 2000, and we were actually incorporated as a nonprofit in 2016 under the leadership of Teo Lazar and then Constantin Vulpescu. So for almost 25 years, so that's almost a quarter century, we have been helping the Romanian community and beyond with interactive educational webinars, networking events, student scholarships, and others. So we certainly accept donations which are tax deductible, and that would help us put together more initiatives and in-person events in the future. During the presentation, we also want to hear from the public, so please put your questions, and we will stop the recording once my presentation concludes. Most of our webinars are actually recorded, so you could actually find them under the past events section at RomAmPro.org. So RomAmPro stands for Romanian American Professional Organization. So basically, my segment of the presentation is how to pay for college, and what are the most common types of college planning vehicles out there. So I'm a certified financial planner and an investment advisor. I've been in the industry, in the financial services industry, for 20 and a half years. So I help people invest their money, figure out the best retirement accounts for them, minimize taxes, increase income, replace income if they leave their job or retire, and make sure they don't overpay for their life insurance. So keep in mind, this is for educational purposes only and is not tax, legal, or investment advice. And obviously, most investments are not FDIC insured and not guaranteed by anyone. And these are obviously our thoughts as of today, and which can change at any moment, right? So keep that in mind. So that being said, we wanted to discuss some ways to basically pay for college, and I think this information is quite useful. I actually used it personally, and obviously the most common type of college planning vehicle is a 529 plan, but there's other ways, right? I just wanted to make a very short remark on Coverdell savings. So this is a pretty uncommon type of an account that allows you to put only $2,000, right, a year. I don't see how $2,000 a year when a college could cost north of $50,000 or $75,000. I don't even know how that's helpful, but it is out there, right? So let's dive right in. College savings plans, also called Section 529, right? So this is the most common type of college planning vehicle, where you basically put money into a fund, into an account where you have access to typically 10 to 20 funds. It's very similar to 401k. So some of the pros about the 529 is you can super fund with 5 years of contributions without triggering the gift tax rules. So those get triggered typically if you give anyone more than $18,000 a year. You're supposed to declare that on your taxes with your accountant. The 529s are state specific, so the residency of the parent dictates if you get a tax deduction or not. In New York, you do, but keep in mind that that's just for the state, so you don't get the federal tax deduction, right? It's just for New York State income tax or other states that offer it if you're a resident of those states. And the major advantage is the gains are not taxable as long as you use them for approved education expenses. One new thing in 2024 is 529 funds can also be converted to Roth for the kids. There's obviously limitations. There's no free lunch. You have a $35,000 lifetime limit, and you basically have $7,000 a year, but the child will need earned income. So they need to have a job to be able to do this, right? But it's good that this is a brand new thing that's very helpful. Some of the limitations of the 529s are that if you buy them for your local bank or broker dealer, they tend to be very expensive. So there's a direct plan in New York. There's a very good direct plan where you basically invest in index funds and you save yourself 1 or up to 2% a year in costs potentially. One of the things that I really don't appreciate about the 529s is that you only have 2 rebalance transactions, right? So imagine year 2022, the world was pretty shocked to see the situation in Ukraine developing. Let's say you wanted to go conservative, and you did that, and then you realize maybe the situation is not that terrible, and you wanted to go back aggressive. Well, then you basically need to wait until the whole year, until the next year, to be able to do another transaction after that, right? So that's a major limitation of the 529. And you're usually stuck with one asset manager or a set of index funds. You cannot invest in stocks, other ETFs, or other investment options, and this can count more against financial aid as it's in the kids' names as opposed to maybe the parents' names or the grandparents' names. So be careful if you're very close to college and you think you might receive some financial aid. Maybe I would think about it some more before you overfund the 529. Another option is to basically have a custodian account for the child, UTMA, Uniform Trust to Minors Act, this. You could open this as a bank account, but I would really recommend that you open it as a brokerage account. Most major broker dealers and banks offer a low cost or zero commission account for this. And the major advantage is you have a lot more choices than the 529, right? So you could invest in stocks, bonds, CDs. You could go conservative, aggressive. Sky's the limit. The major advantage of the UTMA accounts is that the first $1,250 of gains or interest are not taxable. The next $1,250 is actually taxed at the kids' rate. Presumably, most kids are not working, so their tax rate would be lower than their parents' tax rates, right? That's the advantage. Again, it may count more against financial aid. It can trigger gift tax rules, so there's $18,000 per year. And you cannot, if your child wants to buy a BMW at age 21, you cannot stop them, right? Is their money the day that they turn 21 years of age. Moving right along, so another option is for you to invest, instead of putting money in the 529s, or in addition to putting money in the 529, you could basically invest in a brokerage account, right? And you keep this money in the parents' names. So again, same thing applies, more choices. There's no contribution limit or gift tax rules. The parents and the grandparents fully control the money until age 21 or age 41 or their kid's wedding or what have you. And, imagine if you were able to buy some shares of Apple or any other stock. I personally bought, to give you a personal story, I personally bought just $1,000 of Apple stock in 2010. Today, it's worth about $17,000, right? So even with all the fluctuations and new presidents and everything that has happened, the money basically multiplied by 17 times. You're never going to see that happen in a 529 account, right? It's not possible. Obviously, the major con is that the parents pay the taxes, and especially if they're in a higher tax bracket. Moving right along, so another way to do this is to basically put the money inside of Roth IRAs, right? So again, most of the things apply that I spoke about before, but the money also grows on a tax-deferred basis, so you're delaying the tax, and potentially you're actually avoiding the tax. And one thing to keep in mind is, although the Roth IRA is a retirement vehicle, the contributions that you put in every year, which is $7,000 up to age 50 and $8,000 from age 50 and older, that contribution can always come out free of tax and penalty for any reason at any time with no explanation needed, right? So that's a stipulation that's possible. So in essence, you could put money in the Roth, invest it. Hopefully you invest in some very good stocks or index funds or mutual funds, and you have growth. And when you need the money for college, you just pull out, but you take your contributions if you need to do so, right? Now, one thing to keep in mind is there's tax rules where if you make over $161,000 as a single taxpayer or $240,000 as a married taxpayer, you cannot contribute directly into the Roth. So the way it works is there's a loophole that's legal in the tax code. We call that a backdoor Roth. So in essence, what you're doing is you're first putting money inside of a traditional IRA. You don't take a tax deduction, and then that gets immediately converted into a Roth IRA. And that's called a backdoor Roth. Now, keep in mind, you can only do that during the calendar year. You cannot do that until April 15 of next year, right? So if you're thinking about doing this, you think your income exceeds these numbers, you want to do that well before December 31st. Like your bank or broker dealer will need about a week to process that, right? So I wouldn't wait until December 29th to do that. Not a good idea. So the gains in the Roth are fully taxable before age 59 and a half. And they may also be a 10% premature penalty. Usually it's supposed to be for retirement. But like I said, contributions can come out at any point in time. Getting very close to the end here. So other funding methods to avoid your children, grandchildren taking too much in student loans. I actually had a client that had a very expensive diploma. So we had this client that actually their oldest son went to Harvard Dental School, and they had student loans of about $300,000, right? And the interest rate was about 8%, right? So every single month the child was paying, well, now an adult, obviously, but he was paying at least $2,000 just in interest alone, right? So to avoid that, these are some of the other funding methods, right? So you have the ability to take, if you're working and you have a 401k at work that has money in it, you can take up to $50,000 as a loan. You pay interest on it. However, the interest you're paying it right back to yourself, right? Another option is if you have taxable investments, non-retirement, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, you name it, you could borrow against these securities against the majority of the value of the brokerage account. The advantage is you have a lower interest rate. You don't have a credit check. You have the stocks still invested, and you're delaying taxes, right? You're not paying taxes on capital gains. So I'm seeing a lot of people are actually coming in at this point. So welcome, everyone. Student credit cards are also a different way to fund some of the college costs. And, obviously this is, you need to know your child but I think it's super important that credit gets established from a young age. When I worked for the very first bank in 2003, I remember very well in the summer, I was worried that I wasn't going to receive that job because I didn't have any credit, right? So I was petrified. Oh my God, like it was my dream to work in a bank and I didn't have any credit, right? So let alone today and looking into the future, I think it's very important. So I would definitely encourage young students to have credit. If they have no credit, I would basically apply either for student credit cards or secured credit cards where they make a deposit. Not every bank offers those, but you certainly can find that by Googling them. I would obviously try to avoid store credit cards. One last thing on the credit card front, the whole point is if you have multiple banks, they have sometimes 0% balance transfers, right? So if you have good credit, you're entitled to have certain offers from banks, right? So I think it's super important. Lastly, a different way to create more money to pay for college expenses is to invest in funds that pay high dividends, right? This again can only be implemented in brokerage accounts, and the way you do that is you basically target funds that pay income, right? So you have funds that pay 2% a year, and then you have funds that pay anywhere between 6 to 10% a year, some of them with monthly dividends, right? I would consider these to be conservative to moderate, right? If you're willing to go up to moderate, aggressive, some of them pay up to 12%. Keep in mind that they're not all created equal. Some of them are actually quite risky. So I would certainly talk to a professional, and I can't share them here, but I'd be more than happy to share some of those with you on a one-on-one basis. But the point is that instead of you investing in a fund where just if the market goes up, right? So every single year I have conversations with clients that ask me, Adrian, is the market going to be good this year? Or is the market going to be bad this year? And you know, the answer is nobody knows for sure what the market is going to do, right? It's an election year. We have several geopolitical events happening around the globe. It's impossible to tell sometimes. However, you know, I think the outlook is rather optimistic, especially as we get past the election and the first time that they actually cut interest rates, which we expected to be May or June or perhaps July at this point, right? But that doesn't mean that the market is necessarily going to go higher, right? One thing that I would like to stress very much is I spend all of my day, almost all of my work day, trying to figure out which are the best funds, the most consistent, that take the least risk, and that people can put their money and sleep well at night. And you know, I would obviously target those. And one last thing that I wanted to say about investing in brokerage accounts to create dividends is a lot of people, I still see a lot of people that have had their stocks in, you know, the blue chips, the large US blue chips for a long time. And, you know, when you invest in individual stocks, you just take a lot more risk, right? So Walmart stock fell 27% in a matter of a week about a year ago when they missed their earnings. Pfizer stock, which was an amazing company that basically took us out of the pandemic, arguably, and they had a very good contribution at us getting out of COVID, was down about 50%. So you would have lost about half the money if you had Pfizer stock all of last year, right, when the market was up. Right. So keep that in mind. And the whole point about income investing is that you're not guessing, is it a good market or a bad market? You're getting paid just like if you had rental income from properties, from real estate, you just get paid every month. Right. So that's pretty much it. So we're going to start, we're going to stop the recording in just a few moments here. We're going to go to interactive Q&A. Our next webinar at RomAmPro will be at the end of April, probably April 30th at the same time in the evening. And it's going to be about how to invest in an election year. We're going to have a pretty interesting host doing the presentation. And, you know, we'll share tips more in detail about some of the comments that I made. But obviously, it's a very important and consequential year for the world and for the United States. Whoever's going to be president next is quite consequential. And all of that being said, keep in mind that we're here to support you. One question that I had for Diana to kind of kick off the Q&A is if people have more questions for you, what can you help them with, and how can they reach you best?
Absolutely. So please reach out through email. That's the easiest thing. So the easiest way to find